Okay, so picture this. It's 1871. The leaders of a nation, men who were literally samurai just a few years earlier, are packing away their swords and their traditional kimonos. This is exactly what Japan's top statesmen did. See, they'd just overthrown a centuries-old shogunate, and now they had to build a brand new country from scratch. So they decided to go on a global shopping trip for ideas. And their very first stop? The United States.
Now, to really get how wild this all was, you gotta think about Jules Verne's famous novel Around the World in 80 Days. That book came out right around the same time. And to most people, it felt like complete science fiction. This crazy, thrilling adventure only made possible by brand new tech like steamships and railroads.
But here's the thing. Reality actually beat the fiction. The Iwakura Mission set sail a full year before Verne's book even hit the shelves. And get this wasn't some fictional bet between a couple of rich adventurers. This was real life. We're talking about nearly 50 of Japan's most powerful figures, basically half the government's cabinet, on an official mission to find the best parts of Western civilization and bring them home. The stakes just could not have been higher. So their journey into this new world officially began on January 15th, 1872. Their steamship, called the America, sails right through the Golden Gate, and they land in San Francisco. And this city is just electric. You know, it's buzzing with gold rush money and that post-Civil War American ambition. For this Japanese delegation, this was their first jaw-dropping taste of the West. Their American hosts didn't waste a second. They put them on this absolutely relentless tour. This was no vacation, believe me. It was a carefully planned show of force. They're touring carriage factories, wool mills, naval shipyards. Every single stop was designed to just overwhelm and impress them. And at these huge banquets, a very young Ito Hirobumi, who would one day become a prime minister, gives this speech about Japan being a rising sun, trying his best to hold his own in the middle of all this American power. And the culture shock was just immense. I mean, you have to put yourself in their shoes. These are men who came from a world of very formal, very restrained no theater. And then they're taken to see a Western ballet. One of the officials, a man named Kondo Masatsuna, wrote in his diary that the beauty of the dancing women was truly astonishing. It was so foreign he could barely find the words for it.
But this trip wasn't all just culture shock and fancy dinners. While in San Francisco, the mission's finance guys hammered out a huge deal with the Bank of California. The plan? To remint all of Japan's old currency into a modern, standardized form. And the price tag for this was $20 million. This wasn't sightseeing, this was nation building, happening right there on the spot.
So after their minds were blown in San Francisco, the delegation got ready for the next part of their education. And this meant a trip across the entire continent on the absolute pinnacle of technology at the time, the brand new transcontinental railroad. So this was the route, a ribbon of steel laid across this vast, wild continent. For the mission, the journey was the lesson. They traveled in these incredible Pullman Palace cars. I mean, these were like rolling hotel rooms, all velvet and polished wood. The whole thing was designed to show off the sheer power and ingenuity it took for America to tame its own frontier. But here's the twist. Right after being totally wowed by American technology, they got completely humbled by American nature. As they were crossing the Rocky Mountains, the mission ran smack into a series of just catastrophic snowstorms. Their futuristic train was buried, totally stuck. What was supposed to be a quick stop in Salt Lake City turned into a weeks-long ordeal, trapping the leaders of this rising nation in the frozen wilderness. And that 2-week delay in the snow, it caused this massive ripple effect. What had been planned as a tight 10.5-month world tour ended up stretching to 632 days. We're talking almost 2 full years. This wasn't some minor inconvenience. This was the moment their perfect, orderly plan started to completely fall apart. Okay, so after they finally managed to break free from the snow, the delegation makes it to Washington, D.C. They've seen America's industrial power, they've seen its wild nature, but now it was time for the real reason they came all this way, to renegotiate the unfair treaties that had been crippling Japan for decades. Their first taste of DC high society was, you guessed it, another totally baffling experience. The mission's official note-taker, Kume Kunitake, he walks into this big reception expecting some quiet, formal dignity. Instead, he finds what he sees as total chaos. To his traditional way of thinking, the sight of men scrambling around to get food for women who just sat there and commanded them, it was a power dynamic so backward he called it a scene of extreme vulgarity. So when the diplomatic talks finally got underway with the Secretary of State, a guy named Hamilton Fish, the mission's huge ambitions just slammed into a brick wall. And it all came down to this one critical legal idea: plenipotentiary authority. Basically, it's the official power, straight from your head of state, that proves you can legally sign a treaty for your country. So Secretary Fish calmly takes a look at their credentials from the emperor, and then he just delivers this fatal blow. They didn't have it. Their paperwork gave them the power to observe, to learn, to talk, but not to sign anything. After coming halfway across the world, the main diplomatic goal of their entire mission was dead on arrival. So just think about that. They had traveled across the entire planet, only to be stopped by a piece of paper they didn't even know they needed. This was a stunning setback, and it forced them to make a decision that was as radical as it was expensive. There was really only one way to fix this. Just a few weeks after getting to Washington, two of the mission's most powerful leaders, Okubo and Ito, had to turn right back around. They started the long, grueling, months-long journey all the way back to Japan just to get the right piece of paper, leaving the rest of the delegation completely stranded in America. And that's where we leave them, just a few months into what would become a nearly 2-year odyssey. Their grand mission was broken into pieces, their main goal was totally on hold, and they were facing this huge fundamental question. How do you build a modern nation when your first giant leap forward forces you to take an even bigger step back? The way they answered that would end up defining the future of Japan.